Okay, what's going on, everybody? We're here, we're live. I want to thank you all for joining me today. If you can see and hear me clearly, please drop a one in the live chat. I'm gonna really need that one today because I just dropped my overpriced microphone on the ground and I'm hoping that it's still working. So if you can see and hear me clearly, please drop that one in the live chat. While I'm waiting for the ones to come in, if you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button, because that is the most important thing you can do for me on this channel. What it does, that it helps make sure that those who are subscribed to the channel will indeed get their notifications, and it also helps to push this video through the YouTube algorithm as well. Secondly, if you're new to the channel, or maybe you've been ghost watching this channel for quite some time now, I see you ghost watchers, please do me a favor and do yourself a favor by hitting the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. And lastly, please make sure you share this video out on your social media platforms to your family and friends to inform them on this news and information. And yes, that does help to give me a slight boost in the YouTube algorithm also. And I see the ones are starting to come in. So we can get into it today, man. We can get into it today. Miss Andrea J, I'm glad to see that you finally made a live stream. She said, finally made a live stream. I'm glad to see that you're here. And shout out to College of Natural Health and Science, BDA, for 4 months of service. I appreciate your 4 months of service. Saying supporting this AI Russian bot grifter is an honor. I appreciate you, because you all know me. I'm a Russian bot spread misinformation. You all know that I'm, an artificial intelligence powered by ChatGPT, programmed by Putin and the Russians. You know what I mean? Just here to push misinformation on YouTube. That's all. That's all. Nothing too crazy, just pushing misinformation. But let's get into it, man. I came across this video, and it's of Whoopi Goldberg. She said she doesn't care if Biden poops on himself. She's still gonna vote for Biden. And I didn't finish watching the entire video. I think it's kind of like around 2 minutes long. All I needed to hear was her say, I don't care if Biden poops himself. I said, you know what? I've heard enough. We're going live. We're going live. But before we do that, I want to get into this other clip. I want to get into another clip, and I want to speak on this one right here, because this is actually very interesting. It's a little bit more interesting than Whoopi Goldberg's pooping, comment, right? But this comes from obviously our favorite news studio, MSDNC. The show is called The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell. And in this clip here, it really just goes to show how bad the DNC is doing right now as far as them just being in complete shambles over the Biden debate. It really highlights how bad they're doing, and how they're just in such disarray. Because what he's going to suggest here for debate moving forward is that because Biden's performance was so poor, for lack of, to say the very least, right? Because his performance was so poor and bad, what needs to happen moving forward with all debates, right? Because they want to make sure that they frame it as if it's not just about Biden. But what needs to happen moving forward, all presidential debates moving forward, is that they should be able to have staff on stage with them to help them answer the questions in case they're not speaking clearly. They should have their full staff, everybody mic'd up, so that they can help the president or the presidential, hopeful, let's say in this case, Donald Trump. They should have their staff on stage with them. That sounds completely ridiculous and nonsensical. But like I said, things are so bad that they're proposing foolishness and nonsense like this to the likes of which we've never seen before. So I want to get into this clip first, before we get into Whoopi Goldberg talking about poop. All right, let's jump into this very quickly.
To allow the candidates to have as many staff as they want, join them on the stage throughout the debate, and make sure that all of them have microphones.
That's crazy. As many staff members as they want. So you can have the whole crew on stage with you, everybody in your staff on stage with you, everybody mic'd up like the Wu-Tang Clan. You could have the whole Wu-Tang Clan on stage with you to help you answer questions. That sounds completely crazy and ridiculous.
And the candidates should be allowed to turn to their staffs and confer with them about anything at any time in the debate. And we should be able to hear everything they say, so we can hear if the candidate has competent or incompetent staff. We could hear the candidate overrule some advisors and say something else. We could watch the candidates actually think and process information, including possibly information that they might not know.
This is completely nonsensical. Like Rob said, shout out to Black Light Revelations 2. Let's make a cheat sheet and we just won't call it cheating. That's literally what this is. Whoever's running for president, Biden and Trump aside, you should be able to answer questions on the fly as it pertains to what you're going to do when you become president. You shouldn't have the entire Wu-Tang Clan with you on stage during your debate to help you answer questions. If you, as an individual who are running for president, can't answer kind of the most basic questions concerning who you are, what you're about, and what you're going to do once you've been in office, or if you have been in office already before, in the case of both of these candidates, this is what I've done in my presidency, and this is why I'm so much better than him. If you can't answer those questions on your own, then you have no business running for president, period. You shouldn't need, like I said, the entire Wu-Tang Clan on stage with you to help you answer questions. But let's carry on. Let's keep listening to what this man has to say, Lawrence O'Donnell.
Until a staff member tells them or reminds them. A candidate should be allowed to let staff members actually answer questions for them, just as the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, answers questions on behalf of the president around the world, as has every Secretary of State in history. That's the way the presidency actually works.
Imagine a presidential debate where Karine Jean-Pierre had to step in for Joe Biden. That sounds completely ludicrous. What he's proposing sounds completely nonsensical and completely ludicrous.
The presidency does not involve oral exams and memory quizzes. The president is allowed to forget what the marginal income tax rate is on couples filing jointly with an income of $150,000.
You see what he's saying, he's being disingenuous. You're allowed to forget things, right? I forget things all the time, midstream sometimes while I'm talking. I haven't done it in a while, actually. I've been pretty good with that. But if you've been subscribed to this channel long enough, you remember some of my live streams, I'll just trail off and I'll do the Joe Biden. I start talking and all of a sudden I forget what I was talking about because I started trailing off about something else. It happens. That's a completely different thing than consistently trailing off into no man's land every time you try to answer every single question that comes your way. It's one thing to lose your train of thought every now and then. It's a whole nother thing for us to have. I can sit up here. If I wanted to be a jerk, I could take this live stream to put together a 2-hour long, like, what's it called, montage or something of all of Biden's gaffes concerning him in the middle of answering a question. He's talking, and then while he's talking and he's trying to answer the question, he just I mean it. You know what I mean? Like, I could do that right now if I wanted to. That shouldn't be the case. And if that's the case, then you don't have any business running for office, let alone having a whole bunch of people on stage with you answering questions on your behalf, because mentally you're not there.
There's always someone in the room who knows the answer to that kind of thing, which, by the way, is 22%. And I don't know that because I used to write tax law and I memorized all the tax brackets. I know that because I just looked it up. That's the way governing works. People are allowed to look up whatever fact they need whenever they need it. And they're allowed to forget those facts when they don't need it, because they'll always be able to retrieve those facts one way or another when they do need it.
So basically, you should be able to ask Google for assistance in the middle of a live debate. Imagine that. Imagine in the middle of a live debate, Trump versus Biden 2, because I think they do have another debate scheduled. Whether that's still going to happen, who knows, right? But like, all of a sudden, like, Biden pulls the phone out and says, "Hey Siri," and asks a question, concerning taxes or whatever the case may be, or "Hey Google," you know what I mean? "Hey Alexa," you start asking Alexa, you tap into your lifeline. That's completely nonsensical and ridiculous. Phone a friend, exactly. Denny and Grant, phone a friend. He wants to phone. He wants Biden to be able to phone a friend in the middle of a live debate. That is completely ridiculous.
Or they should always be allowed to ask nearby experts or advisors for that fact. That's the way it works. That's the way it works for senators. That's the way it works for presidents, members of Congress, mayors, city councilors.
Completely ridiculous. Shout out to College of Natural Health and Science, BDA, for coming through with the super chat, being the first person to contribute to today's stream. I appreciate you, College of Natural Health Science, BDA, who said, let me try whatever it is that he's smoking, right? He's smoking on something good and smoking on something strong to suggest something as ridiculous and nonsensical as what he just stated as it pertains to presidential debates. Once again, if you're running for office and even especially the president of the United States, and you can't even answer some of the most basic questions as it pertains to your record, as it pertains to what you're going to do moving forward, as it pertains to just why you're better than the next man. If you can't answer those questions on your own, I mean, then you just have no business running, because mentally your faculties aren't there. You're just not here. So why are you running? I don't want to hear Karine Jean-Pierre step in for Joe Biden in the middle of a debate. I want to hear what Biden has to say. And if he can't answer basic questions, well, then I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. So like I said, man, these guys are in shambles. I've never seen anything like this before, especially what I'm getting ready to play next. I'm getting ready to play now the clip of Whoopi Goldberg on The View. I believe it was today, if I'm not mistaken. And she stated she doesn't care if Biden pooped on himself. She would still vote for him. She doesn't care if he pooped on himself. Since that debate, we have heard some of the most ridiculous things, especially coming from what's her name, Joy Reid. I think Joy Reid said, she said a lot of things. Remember, I played a couple of these videos already. One of the things that was kind of honestly was very hilarious that she stated was she doesn't care if in the next debate Joe Biden comes out sitting on a skateboard and he pushes himself out like this. You know, when you sit on a skateboard, remember when you're a kid, or if you have children now, you sit on a skateboard and you just kind of push yourself out like this. Could you imagine Joe Biden coming out in the next debate on a skateboard, doing this, wheeling himself out? That's what she stated. That's what she said. She doesn't care if that's what he does. She would vote for him anyway. She gave a whole bunch of silly examples like that, nonsensical examples like that, saying that if he did this, if he did that. I think she even said something to the degree of, I don't care if Biden was in a coma, I would still vote for him. It's insane, to say the very least. But this honestly takes the cake, just because it's completely ridiculous and nonsensical. So let's get into it. Let me pull this Whoopi Goldberg clip up right now.
I have my 2 cents because I wasn't here on the day that y'all talked about it. I don't care if he's pooped his pants. I don't care if he can't put a sentence together. Show me he can't do the job, and then I'll say, okay, maybe it's time to go. Now,
if he poops his pants and he can't put a sentence together, that pretty much tells you that he can't do the job. That's what that says. Let's take that from the top again, because like she really said this. She really said, I don't care if he poops his pants. Have you ever seen this level of delusional justification on live national television for a presidential candidate before? I've never seen anything like this before. This is quite possibly the craziest, most ridiculous election that I've ever witnessed in my life, right? I've never seen anything like the justification for Biden's bad performance, the way everyone's jumping through hoops and hurdles, just struggling to justify voting for him. You don't care if he poops his pants? What are you talking about? Let's run that back one more time. Let's take it from the top. Let's take it from the top. And shout out to Black Free Thinker for your 1 month of service. I appreciate you, Black Free Thinker. He stated, good evening. Glad to be a part of this. I'm glad that you are a part of this, Black Free Thinker, and I'm glad that you're here. Let's get into this. Let's run it back. Let's hear this pooping conversation coming from Whoopi Goldberg.
I'm just going to add my 2 cents because I wasn't here on the day that y'all talked about it. I don't care if he's pooped his pants. I don't care if he can't put a sentence together. Show me he can't do the job, and then I'll say, okay, maybe it's time to go. Now, he had a bad night the first time that he went out and debated with Kamala Harris. And everybody wanted him to quit then and say, you can't talk to women like this, or you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. He came back, said, you know what, I got it, and gave 4 years. So, yeah, I have poopy days all the time. I step in so much poo you can't even imagine. Now, I'm not running the world.
And there you go. I should just stop the video there. She said, I have poopy days all the time. She's tried to like spin it and make a joke, because I think she realized how ridiculous what she said was. So now she has to kind of spin it and make things sound a little bit better. You know, you can't. So she said, I have poopy days all the time. I step and poop all the time. But what's the key thing that she said afterwards? But I'm not the one running the world. Exactly. You're not the one running the world. You're not. The person who's running the world should not be pooping on themselves. Okay. The person who's running the world should not be pooping on themselves. And here's the other thing too. I've actually seen an example of this before, and I don't want to joke on this too much because, you know, this is kind of, you know, it's an innocent man. I'm not going to say his name. I don't even remember what his name is, but just, you know, quick side story, right? Years ago, I used to work at a pharmacy, right? I used to work at a pharmacy years ago. It was Rite Aid, to be exact. It was a Rite Aid. Long time ago. There was this old man who used to come into the store, you know, almost every day. Yeah, I'd see him a couple times a week. You know, a couple times a week he used to come into the store. I remember one day he came into the store and he needed to use the restroom, right? So he goes to the back. You had to go through the stock room, right, to get to the restroom. You wanted to go to the bathroom, right? So he goes, whatever. Fast forward a little bit, maybe a couple minutes later, I see him walking out. He's leaving the stock room now, walking out of the store. And he's like, he has a limp to him. He's like limping a little bit, kind of like awkwardly. And mind you, I'll never forget this. He was wearing all white. He was wearing all white shirt, white pants. And I remember seeing all this like brown on his pants when he was leaving. But I didn't think anything of it at the time because I couldn't fathom that he did what obviously you all can come to the conclusion that he just did. There's no way that happened. So he's leaving out the store with brown on his white pants and he limps out. I'm like, okay, that's weird, but I'm not thinking what we all know happened. And then I see my manager run to the back with a bag of kitty litter, you know, and the stockroom manager walks out the back and I'm like, why is he going to the back with a bag of kitty litter? And they said that the old man on the way to the restroom, he couldn't make it. He couldn't make it in time. So what he ended up doing was that when he was walking to the restroom in the stockroom, he actually stopped, removed his bottoms, we'll say, and proceeded to drop stool right in front of the desk of the stockroom manager. He just dropped stool right there. And one of the girls who were in the break room, she saw him and was like, hey, oh my God, what are you doing? She started freaking out. And he just like pulled his pants up and walked out. And that's why I saw him with all the brown on his pants on the way out. So like Joe Biden, I don't really remember where I was going with this story. I was going to connect the two somehow. Clearly it's related to some degree because of what Whoopi Goldberg said. I had a transition that made the story that much more relevant, but I don't remember what the transition was anymore. So yeah, you see it happens. You can forget stuff sometimes, but that's that. I just wanted to share the pooping story with you. But here's the other thing too, right? It's like a clunky transition, but then we're gonna get back into Whoopi Goldberg. Exactly, Carl. Carl for president, but guess what? He's not running the world. That guy who pooped on the floor in the stockroom, he's not running the world, right? And here's my thing before we get back into this clip here. Miss Barry says, poor guy. I did feel bad for him. Like, well, I'm kind of joking about it now, but at the time when I found out what happened, I was like, dang, bro. You know, because I know him. He comes in all the time. You know what I mean? So I feel he's an old man. So I felt bad. I was like, ooh, that sucks. That sucks. But here's the thing, right? Before we get back into the clip. Even if that was the case for Biden, let's say he needed depends. And I'm being serious here. If that was the case and he needed depends, and he couldn't like keep his like bowel movements together, that honestly, if we're being honest, if you really think about it, does that really disqualify you from being able to run the world if you need depends? In my opinion, not really. As long as mentally you're here and you can speak and you can articulate yourself and you can fire off and you can, do the things you need to do just mentally, you're here. To me, that doesn't necessarily disqualify you if you need depends. But Biden, who doesn't need depends, mentally, he's not here. Clearly, he trails off mid answer to his questions. When he's not being asked a question, he's staring off into space with his mouth wide open, looking like he doesn't even know where he's at. That's what disqualifies you. If he just wore depends and that was the only issue he had, okay. Wasn't there a president? Matter of fact, I know there was a president. I can't think of the president's name right now. Where are my history buffs at? Did we have a president who was in a wheelchair? It's like a long time ago, like what, like the 1920s or something like that, 1930s. I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, we had a president. I can't think of his name, but he was sick. I don't know if he had Parkinson's or something like that. But he was in a wheelchair, if I remember correctly. He was in a wheelchair. Somebody help me out with that. Was it Roosevelt? I see. Okay, it was FDR. Okay, it was Roosevelt. FDR. Yeah, he was in a wheelchair. So being in a wheelchair doesn't disqualify you from, being or was it somebody said Woodrow Wilson? FDR. Everybody's saying FDR. Okay, so it's FDR. So he was in a wheelchair. So once again, being in a wheelchair, having some sort of, just disability, that doesn't disqualify you from being president. Even if you couldn't keep your bowel movements together, and you needed depends, even that doesn't disqualify you. That's not Biden's issue. Biden's issue is that mentally he's not here. He doesn't have his mental faculties in order. That's what disqualifies him. So now let's get back into this clip here concerning Joe Biden poop and running for president. Let's get back into what Whoopi Goldberg has to say.
Step in so much poo you can't even imagine. Now, I'm not running the world.
Exactly.
But I don't know anybody who doesn't step in stuff at some point. So I'm just simply saying, there are two debates. And if he can't do what he needs to do for the second debate, I'll join any crew that says get rid of him. But loyalty to me, if you are doing the job, I might not like everything you're doing. I don't like it all. But I'm going to stand behind you like those guys stand behind the guy who should have been the person people were talking about saying, yeah, Biden had a bad day, but this guy couldn't tell the truth if it split his lip. But nobody said that, but Anna said that.
No one's going to say that because that would have to come from the people within his party. That would have to come from the people within his party. You see, that's a horrible example to make because it goes to show just how badly the Dems are doing and how much in shambles they are, because it's not even Republicans that are calling for Biden to step down. The RNC, they're not calling for Biden to step down. They want him to run. Republicans are like, nah, keep him. They're like, nah, keep him. It's your people. It's your party. It's the DNC. It's your folks that are calling for him to step down. So bringing Trump into the equation is irrelevant. It has nothing to do with anything. That has nothing to do with nothing. Your own people, your own party members are calling for him to step down because of what they saw in that debate. There's no reason for the RNC to demand and call for Trump to step down. There isn't any logical reason for them to have him do that. So her comparison there is just it's a false equivalence. It just doesn't make sense what she's saying.
I believe, or something. She's not quite as colorful as I am. But the question now
Give me a chance.
The question now is, because lots of Democrats are coming out saying, oh, find somebody else. But when we tried to do that with DT, this is my new way of just describing him. When we said, listen, he shouldn't be on the ballot. Everybody said, no.
That's because you guys are anti-democracy. That's why you're saying he shouldn't be on the ballot. The people who scream the most about democracy is on the ballot, democracy is on the line, they are the most anti-democratic people in the country.
We said, listen, he shouldn't be on the ballot. Everybody said, no. The people chose him. We can't take him off the ballot. Well, I don't understand why anybody thinks it's going to be any easier to take Biden off the ballot.
Did the people really choose Biden? Democrats didn't even have a choice. At the time, you had Marianne Williamson. Nobody was going to vote for her anyways. But Marianne Williamson and RFK Jr., who were both running as Democrats. You also had a member of the DNC leadership team, Dean Phillips, right? Some of you all remember Dean Phillips. I spoke about him once before. Dean Phillips was running as a Democrat. There were no debates. You guys wouldn't run Biden against these guys to primary, so see if you get him primary, right? So how do you even say that the people chose him as it pertains to Democrats? Democrats didn't have a choice but to vote Biden because there was nobody else running. RFK got so frustrated with the Democrats that he left and became an independent because they wouldn't allow him to debate. They wouldn't put RFK Jr. on an equal level playing field with Joe Biden and Marianne Williamson so that they can debate it out in democratic fashion and let the people decide on who they wanted. They didn't want the people to decide because God forbid they would have picked RFK Jr. So you can't even say, you can't use that Trump example. The example that she gave concerning Trump is that people said you can't take Trump off the ballot because the people selected him. But on the side of the Republicans concerning primaries, the people did select him. There was a wide array of people they had to go up against. Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tim Scott, and the names go on and on, right? Who did Biden go up against? He didn't go up against anybody. It was just him. So did the people actually choose him on the Democrat side? No, they didn't choose him. So the same way they didn't choose him, you should be able to easily get rid of him without people on the DNC side getting upset, because what would you be upset about? You didn't actually choose him anyways. So once again, this is another false equivalent. This is a false comparison that she's making here concerning Trump versus Biden. It's not the same thing. It's wildly disingenuous and just completely ridiculous, if you ask me. And with all that being said, approaching the 28-minute mark, that does it for today's stream. We're going to shut it down right here. I want to take a moment to give my thank yous out to those of you who supported today's show. DSB ran it back. I'm not DSB. DSB, you didn't even run it one time, DSB. Come on, bro. I'm just playing with you, DSB. I'm just playing. I'm not trying to guilt you into a super chat, DSB. I just saw your name in the comment section. I meant to say College of Natural Health and Science, ran it back a few times. Shout out to College of Natural Health and Science. I appreciate you said even my black dog doesn't crap on himself, right? Even dogs and animals don't crap on themselves. You know what I'm saying? Even they don't do that. But if your president craps on himself, you know, you're going to vote for him anyways. All right, I guess. I guess. Shout out to Miss T. Jones. Miss T. Jones said, please put that towards the no biting. You saw the video earlier today. For those of you who don't know, in Chicago, there's a Venezuelan migrant, air quotes, who has a bad habit of biting Chicago police. He has a really bad habit of biting Chicago police. He's a habitual CPD biter. And the most recent time they arrested him, he bit a Chicago police officer on the forehead. If you want to know more about that situation, after this video ends, just go to the homepage of this channel. You'll see it there. You'll see it there if you want to watch that. I appreciate you, Ms. T. Jones, for coming through with the support. College of Natural Health Science BDA stated again, Whoopi has been bullcrapping for years, though. Yes, she has. Yes, she has. Shout out to Jet Black, who said Whoopi is the example of the blacks Joe was bragging about. I 100% agree. Like Joe said, they're not going anywhere. The black vote's not going nowhere. He said, try and take them from me. That was wild. Try and take them from me. Once again, that's another video that I did today too. If you didn't watch that video, go to the homepage. Go to the homepage after the stream is over and check that video out too. Joe was very arrogant concerning the black vote and said, try and take them from me. Try and take the black votes away from me. Bet you won't. And shout out to my man Rob for 32 months of service. I appreciate you, Rob. Black Light Revelations 2, who said, is Biden ignoring calls to step down? Charges. He's definitely ignoring calls to step down. He's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. But you know where you guys should go? Let me pull this up as I exit. Well, number one, if you haven't already, please hit the like button. That's extremely important if you haven't already. And at the end of this stream, you will be redirected to tomorrow evening stream. So please make sure you join me tomorrow evening, same time, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, because we're going to get into this here. We're going to get back to the Women of the View, and we're going to get into this right here. This is going to be the topic of discussion. America is not ready for black girl magic. America's not ready. America is not ready for black girl magic. If you ask Sunny Houston, you all know I can never say her name right. But yeah, Sunny went off and she said, y'all not ready. Y'all not ready at all. She should be running for president as opposed to Joe Biden. That's who should be running right now. But because America's not ready, that simply isn't happening. So that's for tomorrow. You're going to get redirected to that stream right now. Just hang tight and you'll see that pop up. So thank you all for supporting today's show. I appreciate you all for joining me today. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. The link to my Telegram is in the description box below. And I'm out. I'll catch you guys tomorrow, man. Peace. Have a great evening.